You can start the meeting, you can do everything, just nothing that requires a vote. Yep. And the only things up for vote are the grant.
Yeah.
And the minutes, but minutes.
All right.
And I think Steve can hear us, but we can't really hear him, so.
Okay.
I can see your mouth moving, Steve, but I don't, yeah. So you can do hand gestures, traditional hand gestures if you want.
Is there a chat you can write in?
There is, yeah. Well, no, there's no chat.
No chat, okay.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see.
Wave frantically.
Very angry, we'll know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. I apologize. I was on a work call that just ended 5 minutes ago, but it's good when you're at City Hall and you can do that kind of thing. So but I'll call to order the January meeting of the Alexandria Transit Company Board of Directors. We will ask the secretary to call the roll.
Chair Kaplan.
Here.
Vice Chair Kleist.
Wait.
Kendall Taylor.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Hillary Orr.
Here.
Jaisha Thomas. Marat Omey. Jesse O'Connell. Arthur Wicks.
Here.
Chair Kaplan, at this time, we do not have a quorum. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 present in person.
Thank you. So Jaisha has a work conflict and so has an excused absence. Jesse had a conflict, has an excused absence. Marat is on his way. We're expecting him around 6 o'clock. And thank you, Kendall and Steve, for being with us virtually. And Kendall, you're supposed to be in France, weren't you? What I saw in your email, or?
Yes, I had a family vacation planned that was not able to happen.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry you're home and not there. Instead, I saw you yesterday briefly in City Hall. I didn't realize that you were supposed to be on your way abroad then, but okay. We'll ask if there's any public comment. I'm guessing there's none in the room, so we have all. Oh, Bob's here. Staff. You declined to comment. Okay. Do we have anybody who's registered? I won't read the statement if we don't have anybody who wishes to speak, but.
Caitlin indicated we do not.
Not okay.
We don't really register, but there are some people on here if they want to signal with a raised
Yeah,
hand.
so we'll pause. If anyone would like to be recognized during the public comment, please do so now by raising your hand in Zoom. And if there's anyone seeking recognition, I will read our public comment period statement before you begin speaking.
No hands have gone up.
All right, so in that case, we will go ahead and close the public comment. We're going to defer consideration of the meeting minutes from the December 13th meeting onto the chair's report. And so, well, I guess actually this is an action item as well, Article 1 of the bylaws. So we'll defer approval of that, but I'll explain what it is. We've talked about this last month. It was just providing additional flexibility in the schedule of the stockholders meeting, which our bylaws state has to be held in February. And I think that's because if you think about Dash's creation, starting service in March, they probably held the organizational stockholders meeting in February of 1984, and so just decided, well, we have to do it once a year, so we'll just always do it in that month. This year will be, and I'll mention when the stockholders meeting is scheduled for in a moment. This year we're actually going to go in March. There are other years when we've gone in March. I think one year even as late as April. So we just thought, let's just in the bylaws give us more flexibility and allow it to be scheduled anytime between the beginning of January and the end of March. And so that's the change essentially that's there. If we approve it, it will be part of the stockholders meeting in March, and the council as stockholders will be asked to formally approve that as well. Are there any questions or discussion about that now? Okay, so I'll come back for a vote when we have a quorum. Second item is the scheduling of the stockholders meeting, which will be March 12th. Beth can correct me if she has additional information. My understanding is this meeting typically falls at the very beginning of the council agenda, perhaps after an executive session, but before they take up any other business. We don't know yet. We don't know yet when we're going to fall on the agenda, but that's likely what's going to happen. When we know where we fall on the agenda, that may also give us a clue as to whether we're going to get kind of our full stockholders meeting is typically an hour, but there have been years where we've gotten the 10 to 15-minute version, which is primarily just to do the business items and you know, a very, very brief update. If we get the full hour, I certainly encourage, and I will say this again next month when we hopefully we have fuller attendance around the table, that you know, encourage all the board members to come to the stockholders meeting or to participate virtually, because if council is you know, opining on dash service or transit policy, it's very helpful for us to hear that conversation, understand their questions and concerns. And it also shows the council, as they are seating the board for the year, that, you know, we have engaged board members. And so please, you know, keep March 12th on your calendar. And
6:30 or
well, again, we'll know when
Okay.
yeah, because that'll come from council. But that's usually what they like to have us go first during the public agenda. But we'll I'm sure by next month we'll know, because at that point we'll be preparing the docket. We'll probably know if we're going to get how extensive a presentation we have. But and I thank Beth for working with the clerk's office to get that. And then I just had I'd mentioned this to Josh, and I want to share this with staff. This is not something that's new, but something I had taken notice of, especially around the end of the year when we have a lot of events, particularly in Old Town and Delray, where we have street closures and we have a lot of bus stop changes. When Josh first came here, you know, he and I had a conversation about after one of the parades, and I said, you know, we always put up signs when the trolley deviates service, but almost never do we have them where the back then the revenue routes were operating, and you know, it was just sort of left to kind of figure out, okay, this is the first street that a bus can likely pass on, this is where we can have it. For the last several years, and again, this isn't brand new, but I noticed a lot over the holidays, those stops are marked every time there's a street closure that we know about, which says basically this stop isn't going to be serviced on this date from this time to this time, go here instead. That means a lot to customers like me and to many others. And we probably don't know quite the impact that it has, because it's all the phone calls and complaints that we don't get, because people are able to then make changes and go to the plan, you know, that they have. And Josh, in that initial conversation, we talked about, well, you know, if we had the signs that we could, you know, program, you know, that basically had the stop information, we could put messages. Well, that would be really easy to update those stops, but require somebody to go with a piece of paper and tack it up to the stop, and presumably then come back and take the paper down after the event has passed. And so I know that's a joint effort between operations and planning. You have my thanks and appreciation for doing it. Know that members of the community appreciate and notice that this is happening. And it also says that people use the service, because back then, a few years ago, when we didn't put the signs up, we assume, well, you know, what is it going to impact 2-3 people? Well, you know, now we know we have 4.5 million riders a year, hopefully 5 this year. People need our service. They need to know where to go. And so we're giving them advance notice. So thank you. I know that is not something that it's not easy to do, because it requires a lot of effort and coordination. And so I just want to provide kudos to all who are involved in that. Hope we'll pass along to others not here tonight. That's my report. I'll go to the TNS report.
Well, good evening, everyone. So I just have a couple updates here. I did include the monumental sports and entertainment update on here. You know, this is really broad. This is exactly what's already out in the public on this project. I just wanted to mention it, and to mention, you know, that we will provide updates as we have them for you all, but there are a number of listening sessions and community engagement events that are happening throughout the community. I think there was just a Delray Town Hall. There is that was at the beginning of this week, I believe. And then there is on January 27th, I believe there's a city council town hall on this. And then there's a number of other topic, more topic specific meetings. And I saw the transportation one is going to be on February 1st. So if you all are interested in keeping up with that and kind of listening to some of these sessions, I would encourage you to go to the Monumental ALX website, and everything will be listed there, and you can see some of the information that has been provided to the community on that website, but I will provide information as I have it. Regarding the Duke Street Transitway, I just wanted to touch on this because our feedback form is currently live through January 15th on the service roads in segment 3 of the Duke Street Transitway. So if you recall, when council approved the transitway in June, they asked us to go back to the community and look at a couple of different sections and have those conversations. So we've been doing those over the fall, and had a public meeting in December, I believe it was after this board meeting. And we're getting input from the community to figure out what the design of the service roads look like, so we can move forward with design of the full transitway. So there, I believe in the packet, there is a link to that form if you have not filled it out and are interested. There's also presentations that are recorded on those areas. And then lastly, I just wanted to note the WMATA budget. So, the WMATA budget that was presented, basically it's really in response to this large operating deficit and, pending how the General Assembly moves forward, there would be, substantial budget cuts. And so WMATA has to look and say like, okay, if we're not going to be able to change this 3% cap, what does that look like for us and how do we have to cut service? And so that's really what they put out. I put the link to that budget in the packet, but it does look at reducing a number of routes in the city and around the region substantially. So I mean, there's a lot of routes and a number of rail items in there. So I didn't list them all, but if you're interested, all of that information is online, and we'll just kind of keep you posted as we hear what's going on in the General Assembly and how that impacts the service that we're going to see.
And I'm sorry, when you say public input through January beyond, so is there an opportunity now to provide input on the budget? I didn't know that I thought the hearings are usually a little bit later
In January 11, January 11th through the 25th.
Oh, so you can provide input now
We'll use two meetings in January to work through the board. Yes, you can provide public comment.
Okay.
Seeking comment in the coming months. So I don't know that they have anything out yet. So they'll have the board meetings, have the discussions, and then they'll ask for public comment.
And, we often have weighed in certainly on the bus impacts on Alexandria. And I mean, there's a lot of external lobbying, the WMATA board, sort of like coming to us when we don't have money to kind of save or add things versus council. So what would you suggest in terms of timing or how we can be helpful in the process?
I mean, I think a letter is always helpful, but I think we need to get to a point where we understand a little bit more what the cuts are going to be. I don't anticipate they're going to be as severe as the budget that was put forward. So we need to see how that shapes up, and then we can look at that and see what the comments of the board might be and how that, looking at the WMATA service versus the Dash service and how they are interrelated and make some comments based on that.
Do you think that would be March time? Or I guess you have to get through the legislative
You have to
session
get through
here.
legislative session, right? So, or you might have do you have a better sense of that timing? Yeah, I mean, we've got to get through legislative, and then we'll just keep you updated as we can. And if I need to do some kind of written update to the board between meetings, I can certainly
Okay.
share that information. So we're prepared if we need to do a quick turnaround on the letter.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all I have.
All right, we have the strategic plan report, and so we're gonna do board recruitment. I was actually gonna say we're gonna do the board recruitment committee update too, and I've spoken with Matt. I know is prepared to present on that, but when we do get to the strategic plan report, if Steve is unable to speak, is Josh, are you
I'm
gonna speak
I'm
to that?
pretty
Okay.
much going to cover it.
Okay.
Of course, Hillary is also on the committee, but
Oh, right.
I think the committee was just going to introduce, but
And then
I'm happy to cover for you,
Okay.
Steve, no problem.
Okay.
Since we've got your tongue tied here.
All right, so on the board member recruitment committee update, Matt, if you wanted to just kind of share where we are in the
Yeah,
process.
so we got 21 applications, which is probably more than we've had in a long time. Thank you, Beth. As you know, last month, I think we showed you the process and procedure we were going to do in terms of our recruitment. Marat and I have had a hard time coordinating how we were going to distill the list from the 26 or 21. I put a list in of like 5 or 6 candidates I thought were exceptional, including folks who are on the Dash Advisory Committee or Commission?
Dash Advisory
Committee. And then Marat, we didn't sync up, so he submitted his 5 or 6 to us. We had some really impressive candidates and some really highly recommended folks, including one candidate who Jesse recommended, the mayor recommended, but most importantly, sorry, Jesse, was Jim Capsis, who I thought was an excellent board member, recommended this person as well. So anyway, next month, hopefully sooner, we're gonna interview them within the next couple of weeks or so. And assuming I can coordinate with Marat, and then by the next meeting, we'll give you our recommendations. If we can't agree to 2 people, and I don't think we're going to, because I can't even agree to my own narrowing it down to 2, we'll probably have a vote like we did last time.
So Matt and I, we talked yesterday. I worked, some of you know, I worked a very long and we had huge lines for the school board election yesterday. I was sitting in this building from 4:45 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. And I did see Kendall a couple times came through. We waved to each other from the lobby, but I was going to invite, I didn't know if you were here. I was going to invite you to come down and
I'm
chat. But
always here.
you're always here. Okay. I didn't see, I thought I was going to say hi if you passed through the lobby, but Matt and I were able to have some time on the phone, and I spoke with Josh as well. So we took kind of the lists from both Matt and Murat and kind of decided one assumption was that anyone on the DAC who applied they're kind of already part of the DASH community, so they should be given the courtesy of an interview. So that gave us, I believe, 4 candidates. And then between others on the list, we were able to kind of work out 2 additional finalists and have passed those on to Beth, so she knows kind of who's advanced to the next round. I was thinking that, and especially also understanding that I know Murat has had some challenges with his work schedule in terms of availability, and also thinking about the last time when we kind of had a split decision coming out of the committee, that maybe it would be helpful if we had 2 other board members interview the candidates and kind of then take those finalists, not review all the other applications, but kind of take those. And then we've had 4 people when this comes to a vote who've touched these applications, had some input, and that should probably help us get to a consensus when it comes before the board. So that was the thought I had, and I'd reached out to Hillary to ask if you'd be willing to be part of a panel. And it can either, I was thinking even that I would volunteer because we have a limited number of people around the table tonight. But Matt, if you wanted to remain on the committee to be the second person who interviews, that would be fine as well.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have the applications or?
No, and my schedule is getting very tight, so
Well,
if we
it-
have to do these after 5 PM, I'm limited with.
We'll do it
the-
virtually.
Well,
It's
and
still
Hillary was very
advertised.
direct with me about that as
That-
well.
I have to I've got to set
So
the
you
boundaries.
say after 5 PM? Is
After
that-
5 PM is a problem, like.
Oh,
because
okay.
I
Yeah,
have so
yeah,
many
yeah,
night
yeah,
meetings that
yeah.
like
No,
they're, I
that's
can't,
fine. We can do it,
that's my husband, the children.
what time's good for you?
I mean, I can do daytime stuff. I mean, maybe we can talk, and try and figure out. One thing we've done previously, is use, the Spark, where you ask questions and people just answer them, and then we could go through and maybe
Oh.
narrow it down
So
to
it's
a
not
couple people. So
Well, okay.
we could watch them on our own, or I don't know. I think scheduling 6 after 5 PM, full interviews, it's gonna be. I can't
Don't
keep
worry
up.
about that. I mean, I'm.
But I know,
for that
David,
as
you have,
well.
you're pretty booked.
Well,
Still
I also,
got
I was thinking also more of the applicants' availability too. I mean, may have some people who are retired or have more flexible work schedules, but if they work like we do, 9 to 5 jobs, then we might not, in deference to them, and especially if this is an
Well,
opportunity
so-
that's in the evenings.
So the question is, like,
Or
But you may be
somebody else-
able
if
to-
somebody else wants to step
we,
in.
the way we're just, I mean, we see them on paper. All I really want is to know if they can commit to showing up is like the number one thing. And maybe once, just, it wouldn't take 5 minutes, even that. But on paper, I think it's obvious to me at least, like the 5 finalists.
But you gotta get down to 2, because
We-
it's gotta come with the
well,
board, it can't
we're-
have more than 2.
I can't bring back, because I want it to be diverse. I don't want to make, and they're really good candidates. I don't want to, I can only bring 3 back right now.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it will come down to a vote, and I think it's for good reason. I mean, we've got 3, I think, fantastic.
Well,
What if we
and
share the applications with.
The
with that?
finalists, just
Are we
the
able to
finalists.
Share the.
yeah,
Yeah,
finalist
yeah,
we wanted to
applications?
kind of flush out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then I
yeah.
can look at them and see, maybe there's 3 that jump out at me, and then they happen to be the same 3 as Matt, and then that's 3 interviews, that's a little more manageable than 6, or Art, if you wanna,
Okay, so
you're in budget season,
Yeah, I'm
so.
in the same boat.
So
Well,
ju-
we
just-
were also trying to get more perspectives and diversity on the
Yeah.
committee as well, and that's why I thought of you, and also because, you have as your day job being kind of over a lot of the transportation
Yeah.
planning and operations, you have a good sense of then somebody brings to the board and say,
Mhm.
yeah, these are skills that are good, or this is somebody who brings something to the board from a sector of the community we
Sure.
don't really have, and that's,
Sure.
why.
So just so I'm straight, I mean, you just need the 6 people that Murat and I agreed on. Okay.
Mhm.
And then, I mean, I think it's just due diligence to talk to them before they join. But otherwise, I don't have much. to
Okay,
ask them.
I mean, we gotta,
I really
between the 2 of you, that we gotta really get it down.
Well,
to
and Murat too.
2. I don't know that Murat will have the time to be able to be
Okay.
part of, because I think that you know, as it was challenging with the two of you to schedule, and so then when we also then have to bring in applicants as well to potentially their availability, their interviews, I would prefer to keep it to a 2-member committee. Also, we don't have to notice those
Right.
meetings.
Right.
It's a 2-member
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
committee, so that's, I like to do it. As I said, I was willing to step in to do it as well, if you'd rather have me, but I heard you saying I
I mean, Matt,
volunteered.
we can,
I heard Matt saying I volunteered to interview the applicants, so I wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to. I mean, if you take,
so.
if you work for my universe, have at it.
Okay.
If you want, I mean, I don't,
why don't you send me the applications? So I
Okay.
can see, and then
just the 6, right?
just the 6. And then
Beth will get them.
we can see if there's like, if I look at them and say like these 3 jump out. Matt had 3 that jumped out, and then we can do 3 quick interviews.
And
versus
maybe we
6.
can discuss it too, just so,
Yeah,
okay.
And another thing we also discussed, we have 4 members of the DAC. We have a chair of the DAC who is very knowledgeable of these members. And so I think would be willing, as I understand from Josh, to give insight and perspective on kind of the strengths of
sure.
each of those candidates. And so we'll be talking with Ross, but hopefully that can be scheduled at a time that works for.
Yeah, and I'm just very aware of when this was an all-male board.
Mhm.
So, you know, I don't want to be the one bringing it back to like, oh, 2 new male candidates. I will not do that, so.
Well, there's that, I mean, just remember, we've had issues then of geographic balance, we've had.
Well,
issues
and
of
that
other-
should be taken care
Okay, I just say, you know, there have been, when we've gone
Yeah.
to council members in the past, the stockholders, we, over the years, have gotten, you know, a lot of observation about a lot of things, because they, you know, who are very aware of the community and care a lot about, because they look at our entire board at once. And
Yeah.
we're really one of the only boards where every candidate comes to them at one time, you know, for
of. I mean,
reappointment.
is
So
there any value in bringing up 3 people?
we can't seat 3
We
people
can't,
unless
okay.
someone is leaving the board.
Okay, okay.
So we'd be over our cap.
Okay,
Um,
what are we at?
well, we're at, 5, we're at
I
9,
thought we
so
could- Okay.
we can go up to 11, yeah.
Okay,
It's very easy for us to facilitate a quick 5-minute Zoom call with these candidates during the workday for you. Beth has access, you're on the city network, Beth can see your schedule. The only missing piece is what your availability is.
well,
So
I can let you know. I
If you
mean,
give Beth all of your availability. She's really good at this. I'm gonna tell you all this
It's
right
harder to-
now. She'll figure out the puzzle and figure out like how to get these candidates in front of you.
okay,
Once you narrow down who it is you want to
okay.
talk to.
Well, Hillary, why don't you give her your
I just,
availability?
she
and
can
then-
see my availability.
Okay,
She can
so just
Just
give me
bring it up
whatever
now.
hers available, and then I'll just give you what works for me. Okay,
I do think, and especially if you guys are doing quick interviews, I think we should interview each person who's on the
Okay,
deck. So
yeah,
I think
yeah,
in that
yeah, yeah,
case, we
that's
should
fine.
do all 6, and if they're going to be quick, then, you know, we've given them the courtesy of the interview because they have volunteered and.
yeah,
have
yeah,
provided
yeah,
service to
yeah,
Dash.
I
So,
agree.
I just think going forward, that should be a principle of, it doesn't mean you have to seat anybody from that pool, but it should be a principle that if you're kind of part of the Dash network, that you get the courtesy of an interview.
Yep.
So thank you
Okay,
both.
so is this gonna be me and Matt or you?
No,
so-
I'm out,
okay,
I'm out.
So
I thought it was Dave, but I'm in.
No,
do
you
you
talk yourself
wanna
back into it.
talk to Ross or do you,
So Ross didn't apply. He is.
right, but to get,
We can-
as
we
you
can
mentioned,
arrange that
we
too.
can, okay, one of us can.
Who's Ross?
He's
Ross, the chair
You're
of
the
the
deck.
So you guys can
Oh,
get
oh.
perspective on 4 of the candidates.
Oh. Nah, I don't need that. I mean, no.
I
What?
can arrange.
We're gonna interview all 4, so I mean, you know. Unless there's,
I think Ross has volunteered to provide input on candidates, and I think it's valuable because he knows things that the
Okay.
rest of us don't from just having worked with some of these folks
Okay.
for a couple of years. So,
Okay.
as I said, unless we want to ask him to put something a little bit in writing, but I think it'd just be easier probably to just
I
talk to
can,
him.
I can do a
and
call
ask.
with him. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both for agreeing to do this. So we need to, in February, as a board, decide, so if you bring back more than 2 names, then the board, it's gonna incumbent on us to then vote to figure out who to seat. You can bring back 1 name if you want to.
yeah,
but-
I mean, there's no problem with bringing back 3 names.
Well, it's just then board members who will not have had the advantage other than reviewing the candidate packets are gonna have to then figure out, you've said these 3 are all outstanding, they're all equal, then how do board members?
Oh,
approach
well,
the
they can get
process
the
and decide?
applications. I mean, that's how we did it last time.
Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily ideal, because what we were hoping for was to get these are the two, and the board just ratifying that. So we've kind of delegated this
Let's see if we
process.
can, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And if we can't agree, that's when we would bring back three, right? If like you and I can absolutely not agree on a double recommendation. But well, I think you and I can work it out.
Okay, I mean, I don't know how I can work it out, that's all,
Okay.
so,
You shall do.
okay.
All right, well, thank you both for agreeing to do that. Let's move on to the strategic plan.
Okay. I'm gonna invite some of my team members up here to join us at the table as we talk about this, but I wanna start out by reminding everyone that we have board members who have worked hard with us on this and appreciate Hillary and Steve and Marat for getting together with us and providing us feedback. So what we're going to show you this evening is what we consider to be a relatively final product in the sense of what we have worked through with the committee, and we've gotten good feedback from them. We've incorporated their feedback and whatnot. What I want to start by doing is sort of recapping, and just so that everyone understands sort of how we got where we are. So believe it or not, a year ago, we had a retreat. This was with the board, and one of the things that came out of that was the interest in having, February was a retreat, was the interest in having a strategic plan. And so that was when the committee was formed, and we've been working on it since that point. There have been several different times that we've gotten together, and one of the key elements here was that we brought the team, the Dash team together internally, particularly Stephanie, Ray, and myself. And we worked with Stacia, who some of you may know, who was able to help us really frame and bring together all of our thoughts and ideas and really to have a great final product. So I think this has really been a comprehensive effort, and I'm very proud of what everyone has done and the time that everybody is committed to working on this. So presentation, the concept here, I want to just run through the framework and definitions that we've used in this. Talk to you about our vision, mission, and values. The values are the new thing that you're going to see this evening. And then we're going to talk about the new goals that we built internally as staff, using much of the foundation that was set forth by the committee. So perfect timing. We're just starting to talk about strategic plan. So this is sort of how we looked at the development of strategic plan for Dash. This pyramid here helps you to understand the various components of what we're working on. You know, we start at the very highest level there, which is our mission, vision, and values. Again, that's something we're going to talk about this evening. Then we're going to, this is really where we set the direction, right? This is setting the tone, the expectations overall broadly for the organization, who we are and why we're here. The mission, very much our purpose, right? It describes the fundamental reason that we exist. The vision is really our word picture of the future, what we intend to create or influence. It's all about the community and our customers. And then, by the way, the mission and vision have already been in front of this board, have already been adopted, both internally and externally. So that was out of the way. Then our values are really very much the principles that govern our behavior. They're what we stand for. The Dash difference is a term that was coined even before I joined the organization, and we've really held on to. We've been very proud of it. It's been our theme for years. It's all about how we treat our customers and how we treat each other. We established the values, and they're provided in your packet, and we're going to go over those this evening. And then our strategic goals, which is the next tier down. We're going to talk about these as well today. Ray and Stephanie are going to help me to step through those. These are broad statements describing measurable outcomes that we will achieve on behalf of our customers and our community. They are purposefully high level, and we would hope that these would be things that could stick for many years. This is not something that we would anticipate every year going back and revising those high level goals. We've also identified some draft outcome measures and targets for each of the strategic goals. Again, we're going to be interested in hearing some of your feedback. And then finally, for each of the strategic goals, we have a set of objectives. Those are things that we talked through with the committee. We're not going to go into a lot of detail with you tonight about those. They're the things that we have to do really well These are the things we have to do really well in our current environment, or they are barriers that we need to overcome. And those barriers and the things we need to do well are elements of how we achieve our strategic goals. Objectives can change over time, whereas the goals remain the same, the objectives will change much more frequently. So we're also going to show you some of those objective measures. So how does this all play out? So strategic plan has all of these components. The first one here, the mission, vision, and values. So our mission and our vision have already been established. The mission reads, we deliver a safe, trusted, customer-focused experience by providing exemplary bus service to the diverse Alexandria community. The vision is the Alexandria Transit Company envisions a community with equal access to convenient and sustainable transportation that improves the overall quality of life throughout Alexandria. And the values, as I mentioned, are the principles that govern our behavior. They're really what we stand for. Values were not previously established. Again, the version of values that we had was the dash difference, but it really wasn't reflective of this format and how it really ties into the strategic plan. So the most recent meeting that we had with the committee was to talk about these values. These were drafted, understanding that the dash difference is something that's evident every day to our riders, the community, our workforce, and our regional partners. So in everything that we do, this is what dash values. Our first one is connecting lives and enriching journeys. We ensure a smile on every ride through timely, convenient, and stress-free transportation that adds value to the community and builds trust with our stakeholders. The second value that we are proposing is driving progress with heart. We welcome and nurture a diverse, passionate, service-first workforce who are empowered to innovate, grow, and thrive. The third is weaving a city together. We create and nurture a welcoming, safe, inclusive, and accessible environment for our employees, customers, and the Alexandria community. And the fourth and final value is riding on tomorrow today. We pioneer customer-centric innovations and embrace technology to anticipate future customer needs and to expand seamless transportation connections, all while doing better tomorrow than we did today. Remember that the vision isn't something that inspires us. It describes what we hope to achieve for our community and our customers over time. A mission, of course, is our purpose and our values. These values have been designed to be a very active part of our everyday work at Dash. So what we did was we looked at how we could develop values that were not typical. Typically, you see sort of one word, innovate, right? It's kind of just slapped on the wall and there's not a lot of meaning behind it. We really want to do something unique. We feel like Dash is unique as a transit provider. We try to lead the way. We try to be innovative. We really focus very heavily on how we do things differently than others and more uniquely, and create and cultivate a customer experience that's like none other. We made our business case with the strategic plan goals and our metrics, which we're going to go over. The values are really about how we do the work. And these are things that, as taglines that are phrased this way, it makes it easy for our entire organization to get behind. So think about yourself coming into Dash as a new bus operator or a new mechanic, and you're saying, what's unique about this organization? What does this organization value? What is so important to me as someone who's contributing to the success of the organization? That I don't connect well with the word innovate, right? But I can connect well with driving progress with heart, right? And so that was really the approach that we took in establishing those values. So again, the values are one of the new components of this that the committee went through. The strategic goals here we're gonna go through in a minute. They're up here on the screen. The original committee had come up with 3, and we've expanded those into 5. We're going to go over these in more detail in a minute, but I do want to talk about what objectives are, what strategic initiatives are, and what people and resources are. So you can kind of understand how this is all going to tie together. So as we talk about objectives, these are the things that we have to do really well in our current environment, as I mentioned, or they are barriers that we need to overcome. Again, these are things that can change over time, and they're established in places where it makes sense to have them, but that don't necessarily exist everywhere in a strategic plan. They are not critically necessary to understand the direction that we're going, but they very much help to fine tune the path. Strategic initiatives, on the other hand, are typically staff level activities, and these are things that we do to live in line with the strategic plan. So they're specific programs, projects, or activities that help us to meet our objectives. They're typically updated and revisited annually. So this is really an active thing, right? So the lower you get on this pyramid, we're down towards the bottom. This is the day-to-day, this is ongoing, this is regular stuff. And things that really have to adjust quickly and flexibly to our changing environment. We can check these things off, so we can really recognize an accomplishment here in a strategic initiative, and we can tackle the next thing. So an implementation of a new and innovative technology, for example, will be a strategic initiative. One example that we're working on right now is charge management, right? So that's a strategic initiative that has to do with our overall goals towards electrification and the other components of how we're moving forward and being innovative in other ways. The last item here, people and resources. These are the things we need to accomplish the goals of the strategic plan. The board really isn't involved in this area either. But as this is a really responsibility staff. However, the board does play a role in the allocation of the funding to accomplish these things. So think about budgeting and those other elements of what we do, making the resources available to make the plan possible. You can see that this is really where the magic happens, and it's often treated as separate from a strategic plan, although we do talk about that here because we are recognizing this is an overall picture, and we wanted to talk to you about that and to talk with the committee about it as a whole. You really can't have a strategic initiative without the people to do it. So a little bit of a reality check here. We can have an initiative out there, but we may not be able to actually accomplish that initiative until we can find the resources that are necessary to accomplish it. And so those things can change. Remember, strategic initiatives and people and resources can be modified, and they can move from year to year, depending on what we're able to accomplish. When we develop our initiatives, we cannot forget about those people and the resources required to get them done. So that's a high level. That's an understanding of how we approach this. This is where we came from. This is the foundation of how we're building this. The proposed strategic goals are outlined here on the screen. They're also in your packet. Remember that for each goal, we're going to have outcome measures. We're going to have measurable objectives, each with a measure, and we're going to have initiatives and actions that go along with them. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to step through each one, and I'm going to ask my colleagues here to talk about them, read them, explain what they mean, and talk a little bit about how we really looked at the objectives associated with these, the outcome measures, give you some examples just to kind of connect the pieces here. We're not going to have an overly extensive, detailed conversation. We had a lot of good conversation with the committee, spent a lot of time talking through this, and we tweaked a lot of these based on committee feedback. So what you're seeing here really is a final product based on the feedback of the committee and the work of the team. So with that said, I'm going to introduce, I believe, Ray, you're going to handle the first one here. You can't really see the PowerPoint, but now you can see what slide's up there. I'll let you explain this goal and some of the objectives and how the objective measures play out in regards to it.
Yeah, thank you, Josh, and good evening, members of the board. So our first goal is system excellence. This is first of 5 goals. The goal statement for this first goal is to provide a robust transportation system that meets our customers' needs. Essentially, this particular goal is directly focused on the service, on the network. Are we running buses in the right places at the right times, and providing an effective transportation system for our community? The outcome measure we have selected for this goal is a measure of the percentage of population within a quarter-mile radius of dash bus stops with high frequency service. As of now, the baseline that we've identified for this particular outcome measure is 73%, and we have identified a target to raise or pursue 80%. Some of the objectives that we have identified to support this goal will be including placing bus stops in the right places, running buses where people need them, and running buses or taking people to where they need to go. Some examples of the objective measures that would measure and indicate the success of these objectives would be, again, to measure the percentage of population with walking distance of full-time service, ridership per capita. And these are, objective measures such as these and in general throughout the goals are subject to further refinement as we work through these objectives and objective measures with the internal team. Our team consists of the subject matter experts on all these goals in these particular areas. So we may find that some of these objective measures may change, that some of these targets or baselines, might be, more refined numbers than what we have now. But these serve as examples of what it would look like as we measure these objective measures, which, would indicate the success of these particular objectives that support the goals.
As we go to the second one, I would just tie into that. One of the things I might not have stated is that very much objective measures can be used in helping the board to understand our relative success in moving towards these goals, right? So although the board isn't necessarily going to be involved on an ongoing basis in establishing these or really measuring them, you're going to expect to hear from me. And that's a part of this process, and that would happen.
So Josh, in terms of like actually moving bus stops, I mean, that could open up a can of worms. How would you do it? I mean, would you open it up to the riders or,
Well, yeah, these are, and that's a very good, that's a very good point. These are things that we consistently monitor and gather feedback on in everything we do. One, a major initiative that we did a couple of years back is the Alexandria Division.
Right.
And then explore that very question. Are we running the correct service profile? Are we running the correct nature of service? Are the bus stops in the right places? Are we serving the right routes? And so those are things that Martin and the planning team are continually doing on an ongoing basis. And as it relates to this goal, we would have specific initiatives that are active at any given time. Some routine, some are going to be special projects that are going to be on and off that would address that specific question.
so it wouldn't be like wholesale shutting down or adding stops. It may just be adjusting them versus, I mean, changing lines or routes themselves. I mean, that's all it would entail.
But it could be anywhere in that spectrum.
Okay.
So Alexandria's Transit Vision it's very uncommon, right? When we do a wholesale change across the entire system, something like that probably would not happen year to year to year. However, year to year to year, what we do is monitor customer feedback. We collect day-to-day monitoring data. What we have in place, is it doing a good enough job? Are things changing on a small incremental basis? Are there improvements that we can make that we constantly make? We schedule, we make consistent improvements in terms of bus stops, routes, schedules that we do all the time.
So I mean, I'm thinking with the backdrop of the line 34 adjustment and how that tiny adjustment really inflamed so many people. Would they maybe be optimistic that things may change back if the numbers don't reflect improvement?
I don't know that that's necessarily a component of a strategic plan as much as that's an
Just the
ongoing-
objective, though.
Right, the objective is saying that we want 80% of the population of Alexandria to be within a quarter mile of a dash bus stop. How are we going to get there? And the little components of whether line 34 turns here or turns there really aren't about this overall goal, right? And what the objective seeks to accomplish. But it guides the organization and the staff to be making sure, like, let's say that everyone in this room was someone different in 5 years from now, totally different set of people. They need to be able to
Yeah, no,
come
I
in and
get that. I
understand,
get- yeah.
right, and be able to say, well, we should be looking at this.
Right, right.
You know, so I'm not sure that answers your question, but I think that that's very much where these strategic initiatives and people and resources come into play, where we're actually sort of doing this work. Because zooming back out to where this all started back in February was, hey, how do we make sure we know what DASH stands for and what this organization, where it's going and what the expectations are?
Right.
And so an expectation here, and what we're saying is that we're seeking to get 80% of our population in a quarter mile.
Okay.
Can I add to that too? So I mean, there's a number of projects that we work on with Dash, right? Like Duke Street Transitway. So if that project would potentially be an initiative that we're working on, but as we're looking at where do bus stops go, where do we consolidate? This is something, these type of kind of high level objectives are something that we're going to consider. And we're also going to consider the targets and where we're looking at redesigning a corridor for buses. How does that impact these targets? And is it helping us move the needle to do better?
And also like just to add, when new development comes into the city, that's
Getting
also
people
another,
where they
yeah,
want to
exactly.
go.
So that's another criteria that you can actually see if there's you know, like a complex of developments in there. So these kind of criteria would be helpful to establish the baseline.
Right, and all that rolls up, right, into that overall goal, right? Following this expectation. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah,
Stephanie's got goal number 2 here to talk about.
Yeah, I feel bad because I feel like I'm sitting in the way.
No, I moved over here. I can see. Stay where you are. It's fine.
All right, so goal 2, the second of 5 goals that we have is related to the customer experience. In this goal, we're trying to deliver a top-notch customer experience so that people choose to ride. That's the key piece about this goal. We understand that we have customers that do need our service on a daily basis, but we want to be placing ourselves in a position where people are choosing to use our service as opposed to other modes of transportation. Or even as some of our competitors, we share stops with other providers, for example, and we want to see them wait for our bus to come. So that's what this goal is all about. We do have 2 high-level measurements to show success of this goal. The first is related to the CSI, or the Customer Service Index. You all may be familiar with this one already. We've been using it for a few years. We have a target of 80 or above. That is really just a mathematical combination of how many complaints do we have versus commendations versus accidents and incidents, feedback from customers, and it rolls into a numerical score that we can evaluate. So that's going to be one of the measurements that we look at for success. The second is going to be related to on-time performance. I think that's a big one in the transit system. It's not odd to pick. But the baseline is going to be 80%. That's an industry standard baseline. For the beginning, we're going to be trying to achieve 85%. That's where we want to start at. So those 2 measurements are going to be how we kind of determine whether we're successfully meeting this goal in the beginning. We have several objectives listed below. There's 4 of them there. It's kind of your key things you've heard us talk about: providing a reliable service fleet, providing a modern, clean, and comfortable fleet. We did separate those 2 out based off feedback from the committee. We also have serving with friendly and helpful bus operators and transporting our customers safely throughout our community. So you're hearing about the vehicles, you're hearing about the employees, you're hearing about safety. That's what rolls up into a customer experience being top-notch by our definition. Just one example of the objective measures, just to close this goal out. You can see like pull out on-time performance. I'll just do that first one there. That's going to be a brand new measurement for us. It's something that we've identified that if we have issues with getting vehicles out of the garage, that probably rolls into issues on the street as far as what on-time performance looks like, or whether we're talking about vehicle reliability related to mechanical issues. So that's going to be a measurement that we focus on. That's going to be new. That's why you don't see a baseline target yet, because it doesn't exist. It's something new we're going to start. Do you have anything to add for customer experience?
I mean, this is one of my favorites, because I think it's one of the things Dash does exceptionally well, and it's unique for us. And really getting this memorialized and recognizing even higher, even a higher standard. Remember that, you know, we're seeking in our values to do better tomorrow than we did today. So that's always saying that there's always opportunity, right? There's always something that we can do better. So get on a great, clean bus with a friendly bus operator on time where you need it to be, so.
Josh, before we move on, the second objective under there, provide a modern, clean, comfortable fleet. That's gonna be the initiative level. Is that getting more to like, not that you're measuring how many times you clean, is it, did I clean the bus or is it, did I replace the bus? 'Cause that's the one, like what I'm trying to wrap my head around is the first objective is actually about having a reliable service and fleet, and providing is actually slightly different, and at least how I look at things, because there is. I would assume there are things we could measure that get to actual fleet replacement, how we're performing on that, right? Obviously, there are a lot of things outside of your span of control on that. I'm just trying to think, is that slightly different or not? I don't know. This is bringing back lots of flashbacks to logic models, and is it an objective or is it a you know, whatever the next level down is. But anyway, so I just I don't have a great fully baked question there. I'm just trying to, is there something that needs to be in there that gets specifically to like how we're performing on like kind of keeping up with fleet replacement? Does that make sense?
It does, and that's why the comment is there about measuring success at the initiative level, because there's very specific things that we're gonna have to do
Yeah.
to achieve that objective, because it's very broad, right? Modern, clean, comfortable fleet, what does that mean? Some of that means pursuing electrification. When we go to purchase bus orders, that we are looking for the newest technology or the most robust technology or something that we can put on the street that other providers are not providing yet. So that could be into what are we purchasing. But it could also be when we talk about cleaning. I know you mentioned that, but yeah, that's one of the initiatives is setting up procedures related to cleaning. I want to do 70 cleans on a 40-foot bus on a weekly basis, and maybe that's the new baseline, and then we want to progress it to 9. They're very much in the leads. That's why they're initiatives, but it goes into both of those different elements that rolls up into this broad, modern, and clean. That's what we're referring to.
No, that's exactly what I was looking for. That.
Or thinking about, like we've talked about the onboard also last month, or
Yeah.
you know, when Ray is working on a bus build, one of the things that we introduced was we led the way in a uniquely comfortable seat that actually is easier to keep clean. You know, there used to be fabric seats that were comfortable, and then they went from fabric, they went to plastic uncomfortable seats because fabric was hard to keep clean. Well, we found a padded seat that also is able to be kept clean that isn't fabric. Those kinds of things also would play into this when we're thinking about what we're doing on the initiative level.
Let me ask a question just on-time performance. Remind me how you measure that at what point in the route? Is that if the bus finishes its route within how many minutes of its schedule, or is it measured at different time points along the route?
And so by definition, on-time performance is measured by each trip as they exit each time point, that they are no more than 5 minutes late or more than 1 minute early. That's the general definition, but of course, the mechanism for measurement might actually have a bit more resolution depending on our technology provider, but that's the general definition that we, that we consider to be either on time or not on time.
And so you're measuring, it sounds like probably 6 or 7 different points during the route, not just one of us.
Correct.
We wish we could have every single stop as a time point, but that's just not
Yeah, no, but it's
our-
helpful to know because a lot of people may think, oh, it's when the bus gets to its final destination, but is it
It's
because it's making up time later on and it's always late when it gets to me or early?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So goal 3 goes back to you, right?
Yeah, so goal 3 is environmental stewardship. The goal statement is minimize the community's carbon footprint on the environment. And so when we think of Dash's environmental stewardship, it comes from a few different angles. One is the reduction of the emissions and impact of the environment of the Dash fleet itself. Second is the reduction of what would be emissions to this to the ecosystem that we then defer by having more people ride on the bus. We assume that there's an assumption made that a good number of those people, if they were not on a Dash bus, they would either be in their own personal vehicles, take an Uber or some other mode. We generally make an assumption that we do displace some level of environmental impact just by having the sheer number of people that we carry on board our buses. And of course, the third would be minimize the carbon footprint of the Dash facility. Those are directly reflected on as the three objectives of environmental stewardship. And of course, the objective measures are in one way or another, measuring the reduction of impacts of emissions by each of those avenues. For example, one of them is a reduction of single occupancy vehicle miles that otherwise would have taken place and added to the environment had those people not have been taking a Dash bus to for their trip purposes. The other one of the other ones is the objective measure for minimizing the emissions of the Dash fleet. And that objective measure is, are we making progress and are we making a goal of converting our entire fleet to zero emissions by our target 2037? And the one for the Dash facilities is pretty straightforward. It is maintaining lead certification of our facilities and or improving it.
Sorry, one other question is there, has there been any effort or is there any desire to, especially on this one, kind of bounce this off the Office of Climate Action in the city? I just want, the first two are pretty specific to you. The last one, I'm actually curious about where they're landing on that and if that is the appropriate measure still. I'm not sure. I just know they've talked about having to have a more expansive definition of, footprint of facilities. So I just put that out there, something to think about.
And that's something for us to look into and see where this lands on the climate action plan. I know this is supportive of, in general, this is supportive of the former Eco City Charter, and we want to make sure that this does support the climate action plan. So we can take a look.
I wonder if you could put like or equivalent. I
Right.
know it changes over time. too,
Yeah,
and-
yeah, I certainly not speaking to that office. I don't know if lead is the same currency it once was in this space. It is my impression, but that's not, I am not an expert on this. So I'm just curious where they're at on this. Just to make sure we're all one city, as so to speak, but.
And quite frankly, we did have a bit of a challenge finding a good measure,
Yeah,
for this. So that's a good idea.
Yes.
That is something worthwhile for us to look into to see what is a good currency.
Yeah, and again, these objectives can change over time.
yeah,
Will change over
course.
time. And I think it's notable, I think the current Dash facility is LEED Gold, so that was that was sort of where we started.
Great.
So that was the other basis behind that.
Right. Also, I just put out there, if I'm in the weeds on this, just tell me.
No, you're
It's
fine.
My brain.
We intentionally are
It's- yeah.
we're showing you a lower altitude version of this.
Yeah.
Because this is the first time we're really going through this process
Okay.
as a board. And we wanted to give you that insight. Again, some of the components of objectives and those more detailed stuff are really fleshed out more with the committee. It's not to say that you can't be at that level, it's just
Yeah.
that we won't normally be,
Sure.
come to you at that level.
Okay.
Goal 4.
Thank you. So goal 4 is about workplace excellence. We want to foster an environment that champions inclusion, work-life balance, innovation, and professional growth and satisfaction. So this kind of falls up under one of our values that we presented as far as driving progress with heart. This is really gets into the employees that we are selecting and how we are fostering an environment that they want to be in and that they're productive in, and that they feel like they have a home in with us at Dash. The measurement we have to try and achieve success with this goal is related to the retention rate. You heard Ray mention previously that, you know, the senior management team is going to be a critical resource when it comes to the action items related to these goals. You'll see that there is a target TBD and a baseline understudy because the reliance falls on the Human Resources Department, our Director of Human Resources and her team to let us know what it should be and what we can realistically aim for and what initiatives we need to put in place to achieve it. So that's why you see there's that placeholder there, because it's going to be something that we presented a year ago to you all, but we're still reviewing to figure out where we're starting on for this goal. There's several 4 or 5 objectives here, mostly about, you know, hiring the right people, investing in them, participating in professional development, networking opportunities, multiple factors into growing employees within the workplace to a point where they want to stay, or fortunately or unfortunately, they get so good that they leave us and move on to bigger and better things. And, you know, they each have measures here. I'll provide an example. One of the ones, first one there is time to fill. One of the things we know with hiring, especially in today's environment, you need to be aggressive, you need to move quickly, probably competing with many other people to get the best person. And so this is one of the objective measures that we'll be looking at, is how long does it take us from cradle to grave to bring an employee in, from when they apply to when they get interviewed and they're in training and whatnot. So it's just an example of one of the measures that we would have for that objective.
Again, having the best people we can possibly have. It's a theme.
Tell me about a stay interview. I know what an exit interview is. Tell me
Yeah,
about this.
yeah. I think traditionally companies love to talk to people when they leave. Why are you leaving? Where are you going? What could we have done different? Our thought process was, what can we do in advance of them ever trying to leave? Why are you still here? Right? Are you here because you genuinely like to be here? What is it about what we are doing that makes you stay? Regardless of what that answer is, it's something that we can evaluate and kind of identify this is an area that our employees love, so let's continue to invest in it. Or this is an area that they're struggling with that may come out in that stay interview that we need to pay more attention to. So that's what a stay interview is.
So you're doing that now, or are you collecting it through one-on-one interviews, doing through surveys? How are you conducting?
So those started in 2023. They're one-on-one interviews with human resources and the employee. It's private in the sense that we as leadership don't know which employee said what, but it's information that human resources then compiles and shares with us as a leadership team that we can then, when we talk about whether it's budget or upcoming training events or networking, there's a litany of examples as to how we can then use that information to help the employees that we have.
Are you interviewing them at certain service milestones? Or are you just doing a random select going through the roster and saying that we'll do every 6th employee this year, or how are you identifying?
So for the first year, it was literally, let's get every employee that we can, because we were starting from scratch. It hadn't been done before. I'm not familiar with our Director of Human Resources as to whether her intent is to continue having it done once annually or semi-annually. But that's something that we can certainly get back to you on.
I would be interested in, even outside of this process, I think that would be great to get some of those big trends to understand, because we talk a lot about, you know, where we have gaps in our ability to recruit, and also understanding when we prepare a budget too, what are things to invest in. So I'd love to see that reported on.
Is that a industry practice, or is that very common with center, or is that something innovative that we are doing here?
It's something that I've heard about previously. This is the first company I've worked for that's actually done them. So I would say it's not a new item, but I think it's one of the more modern things that Human Resources is trying to do.
I'd like to think we're unique in the fact that we're doing, because I don't know a lot of places that do it. You tend to, ask someone why they're leaving. At that point, it's too late.
Yeah,
No,
no, I like the idea,
hard
that's
part,
why
yeah.
I asked.
The
if
federal
it's
government does
common.
the federal employee viewpoint survey, which I mean, I probably is getting a lot of the same questions that ask how satisfied, dissatisfied are you with many different things that contribute to your work
Right.
experience. They look at them in aggregate. It's interesting. They don't actually, you don't ever talk to somebody one-on-one, and I don't know then if there are follow-up questions or conversation that comes from that where you can learn more. You just get the survey results. So I mean, I guess that the federal employee viewpoint sort of probably a stay survey in a way, but it'd be very interesting to know what's coming out of it, and even what percentage of your workforce took you up on the offer too, because I mean, if only 15% of your employees wanted to talk to HR, that may also signal that, maybe they don't trust that process. Or if you had 75%, I mean, that would be an outstanding, exceptional number that would show people really feel like they can speak very freely. So I think there's a lot that you can learn from
Yep.
that. Thanks.
A lot of initiatives, a lot of things that we can do uniquely moving towards that. All right, the last goal here is fiscal responsibility. This is to deliver high quality, cost-effective services that offer maximum value to the community. So, we're looking at items from our annual budget. We recognize that zero fares, this is a policy decision, right? This is in place, this is who we are, this is what Dash does. We know that that's here and we want to keep that. Identifying our cost per rider. And another measure here is a cost per ton of pollution eliminated. So tying back into the environmental component here, we also want to understand the return on investment that's happening in regards to the environment. How can we quantify that? Again, these are targets to be determined. These are new targets, but these are things that we recognize are good measures for this goal. Federal formula funds allocated to Dash. Allocated based on Dash performance metrics. So here's another component. You may have heard me, and I think Hillary has even talked about this, right? We contribute towards the funds, the formula funds that come into this region. We play a role in that. And we want to play a role in sustaining or growing those over time. So there's a component of partnership there with the city and cities, because the city is sort of the recipient of those funds and in the weird, convoluted, confusing way that is done here in Northern Virginia, but nonetheless, we contribute towards that, and we know that's a huge and important measure. Some objectives related to this that are meaningful here is to fully fund the operational functions of the organizations. Again, things we have to do in order to accomplish this. We have to properly use allocated funds to achieve the best possible outcome. This is really about that cost effectiveness, right? Making sure that we are a wise investment, we have a return on investment, and that we are demonstrating that and exemplifying that in what we do. So there's a lot of different initiatives there that could come out of this, but fundamentally these center around that meeting the quality expectations while being the cost-effective service that maximizes that value to the community. So that's the five goals there.
Josh, just on that one,
Sure.
did you discuss having an objective around, I guess execution of your budget? In the sense that you know, ultimately you'll have a budget, and
Right.
did you spend 100%, 110%, or 95% of it?
We did a little bit. I mean, transparently, there was at one point the use of efficient instead of effective. We talked about that with the committee and actually modified that, because if we can do what we do today better tomorrow and not cost 100% of what we thought we were going to cost, that's a success, right? If we are equal, that is also arguably success. When we're going over, we're struggling. We have problems. We have things that we're going to need to put into place to address those and those kinds of things. So, the other place that I often see transit systems struggle with this is on capital. I don't recall us having a conversation necessarily about that, but I think it's a good component to hear you say that, because we would want to make sure that when funds are allocated, that we have the people and resources in place to execute what we've indicated we will do. And, I won't say that Dash is the best at this or the worst at this, because I've seen it in a lot of different perspectives. But it can be one of those things that can fall off the radar easily, and then someone comes knocking, which I'm imagining where you're coming with this question from, which is, hey, like, what's going on? Why hasn't this advanced, right? And stepping back and looking at that. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm suspecting there might have been a component there to that.
Well, no, you spoke better words in my mouth, I guess. I honestly was thinking more like, did you stay on budget or did you not stay on budget? And is that an objective we should stipulate? Though I think everyone's kind of, is that an objective when you're just supposed to do, everyone's supposed to do that, but no, actually, where you thought I was going is actually more interesting to me, which is like, are you actually using it as a measure of execution, right? Do you have the people in place and are you doing it in a timely manner? But I'm unsure if that's an objective level or below that,
It's gonna be a little bit of both, I would imagine. I think the reason you don't see staying on budget here is because staying on budget is really, that's what you have to do, right?
Yeah.
Absent of a strategic plan, like,
Yes.
the budget is the budget, and that's what we're aiming to stay on. Strategy here is around how to better use that. I mean, one example I was actually telling Hillary today was we found systems internally at Dash that we're spending money on that don't do as great a job as they should.
Yeah.
When you can move to one that does a better job and costs less, right? So that would be a success under this goal, right? That would be a strategic initiative that would measure success and roll out. But I appreciate the feedback. I mean, I think, again, objectives can be modified over time and maybe worthwhile examining at one. Okay, so you all had some great questions. I can kind of flip back to the high level slide here, but I think I can speak for the committee and the team within Dash that we thank you for your patience on this process, and we're interested in any feedback you have and anything that you think maybe we should be looking at that we haven't hit here, or some loose ends that we can help tie up for you as we move forward with this process.
So I just want to thank you guys for working with the committee, and you put a lot of effort into this, and I think you really took the committee's feedback to heart and then executed it in a way that really captured our feedback. Plus, I think when it was much better than we had anticipated. So I really like the final outcome of that and just appreciate all the work that you guys did. It's great.
I will echo that. This is a very good product, and also as I'm thinking about how we talk to our stockholders when we go through budget, even to be able to show some of that success and be able to demonstrate, what we're looking at and where we're going. It's a way to tell a story, and you've done that. I think you've got the right mix of goals and ways to measure that. And also interested, you talk a little bit about kind of the ongoing process of how the board will kind of interact and engage with this annually.
So, right, so so many of the things that are in this plan are functions of, let me get back to the screen here where you can kind of see the high level. Again, we're setting the expectation here, we're setting the high level goals, and we're understanding what the values are. So I think there's a couple of ways I envision this process playing out. One is that we really sort of finalize and ratify these high level components of the strategic plan that are really important to cross multiple folks working at Dash, on the board, whoever is involved, and can easily be reviewed, and then really talking again on an ongoing basis, building into our board meetings, some discussion about strategic initiatives that we're doing, and tying it, right, and saying, so, hey, we're talking about charge management. We've talked about that as a board before, but we haven't really given you an understanding of how that ties into the whole puzzle, right? All the pieces. And so looking at, how that ties into the strategic goals and how we are achieving it. What are some of the, barriers that we're hitting? Those kinds of conversations. And this provides us that framework to say, okay, so here we are on regarding environmental stewardship. This is one of the initiatives that we're doing. It ties into this goal. Here's what's going on with that initiative, and here are the successes, and here are where the barriers are. Did I?
Yeah, no,
I
I-
kind of caught that you were asking a question. I assumed you were asking a question, but I didn't.
I just wanted, I guess I was also trying to just get a framework of, okay, this comes back to us, so every year in January, we're gonna get updated. Have we thought about basically how we're gonna report out on this, and then what the board will do in terms of then approving any changes to this document? Or is it, and I think I'd ask you that we had our pre-board conversation, like, is this run for a certain length of, it's often strategic plan might be a 5-year document or something, and then, obviously visited as things develop, but what do you kind of, it sounds like this is gonna kind of just be tinkered with and adjusted as we go, but we're gonna use the same skeleton to go forward indefinitely. That's what
I think based off of the outcome of this conversation this evening, my vision, of course, I can let other committee members weigh in, is that we would reconvene with the committee to kind of talk about how this conversation went and establish those next steps.
Okay.
I think that's very, very much what I would have seen us doing. I would love to see the committee or a variation of the committee be something that is an ongoing sort of annually appointed role, right? So that then we, on the side, have a couple meetings a year or a meeting or two a year with that committee to talk on that more granular level and to tweak things as we need to. Where they come into objectives and how they play into the plan. As far as a total timeline, I don't think we really talked about that, and I don't know that we went into it on the staff level, and I haven't heard the committee say otherwise, of thinking that there is a like end date to this. It's more about, again, the tweaks and course corrections as you go.
Well, I mean, I guess our mission isn't going to change.
Right, mission, vision, and values doesn't really, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no,
so again, a new goal might come up in the future. I don't know what it looks like, but there could be something new going. Needs to be addressed.
you might be managing the Alexandria gondola system, perhaps.
Oh, boy.
But no, I appreciate that discussion, and I do thank the committee very much, and I like the idea of the committee, and even as we could have board members kind of rotate on and off to then get new perspectives, especially as we get new members. We're gonna be seating 2 new members of our board who may bring some expertise and want to have a role in this as well, so I really like that they can continue to touch this. Do we need to take action to, you and I were talking about basically whether the board needs to approve that? Do you guys want to tweak this further? And based on, I don't think you have a lot that you need to change in this discussion. You are developing some of the measures, though. I don't know if you'll have those then in a month or two, but when would you like us to give formal approval of this? And if the committee wants to open
I'll
up
committee
to,
weigh in. What I think would be probably helpful, it seems like we're all really on the same page. I think it's really just now a matter of kind of cleaning it up, buttoning it up into something that's there, right, that you can hold in front of you, and then coming back to the board to actually approve that. That doesn't mean that it's checked off and put on a shelf.
Yeah, no.
A lot of people can be a little alarmed when you say that, but looking at the two of you and
How long would that take? Like, is that something that could be done so that in February we could approve it, and then at the stockholders meeting, it's like a bullet on there that like the board adopted this plan moving
I think
forward?
so.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't gotten anything, or not you as well, but I haven't gotten anything from this conversation this evening that indicates we wouldn't be able to be there. And I'm not Steve, I'm not looking at you. You aren't frantically waving your arms or concerned, so hopefully you're okay.
He's trying to speak, but
Yeah, your audio's still not there, but okay, thumbs up. All right, that's what we need. Thank you, Steve. All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you, staff and committee, for an excellent effort. This has been, I know, a long time coming. Josh has been talking about this even before our retreat that we had beginning of last year about something we want to bring to Dash organization. I appreciate all the excitement about this and the ways that we can measure our success and talk about as we go forward. Thank you. We always have space on our agenda for reports by other board members, for commission boards, associations that you're part of, anything that would be for the benefit of the group. Hearing none. Let's go back to the two items that we missed, that we had votes on, that we need to vote on now that Murat's here and we have a quorum. The first is approval of the minutes from the December board meeting that were presented in our packet. Are there any revisions to the way the minutes as they were presented? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Matt, second, Hillary, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions?
Abstained, I wasn't part of the meeting.
Murat's gonna abstain. Steve, are you voting in favor or just not? Okay, thank you. And then.
Yeah.
Oh, Kendall as well, I'm sorry. Is that a yay?
I'm in favor.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you.
yay.
Okay. And then the amendment to Article 1 of the bylaws, if we could just bring that back up on the screen. I think everybody but Murat was here for that discussion. Murat, this is just allowing more flexibility in setting the stockholders meeting. You'll see the language on it in a moment. We talked about, oh, you weren't here last month, but we want our stockholder meeting this year's in March. We basically wanted to be able to have it anytime between January and March to allow for flexibility both for us and for city council, and more or less something has happened in other years to begin with. So is there a motion to adopt the bylaws amendment?
So moved.
Moved by Matt, is there a second? Art? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Steve's
Thumbs
not,
up.
thumbs up, and aye from Kendall. All right, any opposed, any abstentions? All right, passes unanimously. So stockholders will have to ultimately approve this at the March meeting. It'll be on the agenda. All right, we'll move on to general managers. And Josh gets to get his way back to the slides.
I'm gonna bounce all over here. I don't have a report this evening, Mr. Chair. The only thing I was gonna do is just give you a little bit of an update on some of the activities we're doing on the financial side to, let me get this slide up. Last month, we talked a little bit about some of the efforts internally to address overtime and some of the other cost factors that are contributing to our budget position. And share screen. So we have reduced our projected year-end deficit. As of this month, we're hoping that will continue to trend down. We are very aggressively working internally to address the factors contributing to this. The most significant one continues to be overtime, and it is the winner in this room is Ryan. Sorry, Ryan, on the operations overtime side, but that is a normal place for us to deal with overtime. But I will say that the team has done some really phenomenal things in a very short period of time, and we've got some longer term efforts that are going to be going in place. So even the changes that we're making structurally within the organization and some of the other changes to job responsibilities and whatnot have already haven't taken place, but we've already been able to achieve a 7% reduction compared to November. So we're cautiously optimistic that adjustments that are made in January will continue this trend. This chart here is just provided to help you get a sense of overtime hours. This red bar at the top represents bus operator full-time overtime. Here at its peak, it's just shy of 1,800 hours of overtime. That was in October. So you can see that there's quite a significant amount of overtime. It is starting to trend down. The other contributors that are on the supervisor side, several hundred hours worth of overtime on the supervisors, and the clerks, that position is no longer exists, but was also a contributor to it. We've had some short staff situations with supervisors on the operations operator side. We've also looked at how we're meeting service expectations and tweaking those things. So more to come on that, but just wanted to give you that brief update on the financial side. The other was a response to last month. There was a question issued. I believe, Art, you asked this question, which was, can you isolate bus platform hours specifically for Alexandria to have a more accurate comparison of the cost between the two systems? We have done that. We've concluded here on this chart, as you can see, that Metrobus is approximately 45% more expensive to operate per hour than Dash in the city. And this is based on FY 24 Metro Bus budget and dash FY 25 proposed budget. So that doesn't reflect the new Metro budget, but we appreciate that question, and I want to give a nod to the team. I think Edward led this to research and dive down and try to figure out how that Metro Bus broke out.
Pretty compelling stuff.
Yeah,
Thank you for doing it.
absolutely.
And counter to what we're seeing in the news when they lump all of the payments together and.
Yeah, yeah. But that's all I had.
I just asked one question on it. Thank you for, appreciate that. That is a great metric. I've noticed WMATA has had some service alerts in the last, maybe since the holidays, that some of their routes, they're saying we're having some missed trips on some of our bus routes. They don't say explicitly why. I'm assuming that's because of an increase in illness, COVID, flu. They have operator outages. Are we seeing anything similar here? That would maybe necessitate, as we look at overtime in the future, we're gonna see maybe a bump this month, post holiday, no?
Turn the team out there. Go ahead, Ryan, if you want.
So anecdotally, I haven't noticed anything. We did just implement a new attendance policy that started on January 1st. So I'm hoping that we can see how that plays out over the next few weeks, but I think it's a little too early to tell right now. But again, anecdotally, I haven't seen any kind of impact of COVID.
And I'll add that we're at the highest level of staffing we have been, in the past several years, so we're almost fully staffed. It's been off by 1 or 2, and we're.
The one other item of business you had was your trip.
Oh. Yeah,
I'm done with this trip, but I can get back to that slide for you.
yes, so I think we discussed this grant at the last meeting. Let's see the resolution. I don't know if we put all the DRPT ones in there or just the trip grant. But we were looking.
This is just, I just did a summary for you of what it looks.
Oh, thank you.
We did, yeah, we did talk about.
We talked
this.
about it, right.
The landmark transit station interim.
No.
Oh, these are the other.
We got
improvements.
that
These are
one.
the
We
other
already got that one.
improvements.
So yes, this is actually to fund shelters, benches, real-time signage and basically bus up amenities, which is something that I know has been really important to the board. And we're kind of looking at the inventory that we have, where we have planned shelters to prioritize where these would go. And we would be we're applying for, I believe up to $500,000, DRPT funds about a little less than 70% of that. And so, we would match that on the city side with either MBTA 30% funds, or we're also looking at having, this new pot of transportation management go Alex fund money, TMP money that, we talked to you about last year, but that's going to be a really nice source of grant matching for us so that we can kind of take that money and amplify it through grants to provide amenities. So looking for an endorsement of that grant from the board tonight.
And if we receive the grant, when would it be, what would it run through in terms of being able to actually start to see some?
I believe we'd get the money at the beginning of FY 25. Yes, I'm looking at Martin. Yeah, okay.
So even in the next fiscal year, we would actually start to see, concrete being, or, depending what the.
We
improvement
would
is.
get the money at the
You'd be able to
beginning.
start procuring things too.
Right, depends on what it is that we're doing and the level of design that we
Okay.
would need.
This is great, absolutely. Very aligns with exactly the kinds of things we're asking for. So.
Mhm.
I endorse it. Is there a motion to support the grant application?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Matt. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Hi.
Steve Kendall. All right. No opposed, no abstentions. Great.
Mr. Chair, that is all that I have.
All right.
Got a million slides here that I can't get to. Otherwise, I put the slide up that has the.
Yeah,
the next
you were on
meeting.
it earlier, and it's here on the agenda as well, just to announce that our next board meeting will be February 14th. We'll go to the Dash facility again. We had talked about whether we wanted to move that meeting the week before to accommodate Valentine's Day, but did not seem there was any interest on the board or that folks were not free on the alternate date that was proposed. So I will see everybody then. And I'll ask if there's a motion to adjourn.
So much.
All right.
Second.
Second.
Matt, Bart, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. you all and good night.
Kendall,
And
I
we'll-
tried,
Steve, we
I
look
tried
forward to
for an
seeing you again.
hour. We got